Ladies and gentlemen, after a long hiatus, we have returned with Soul of the Skull finally on September 4th. After our last episode was July 25th, we are back yet again to talk about the Minnesota Vikings' upcoming 2024 season. So the Vikings start their season a few days from now. The first NFL game is tomorrow night. Vikings kick off Sunday. Noon game, you'd feel the hype for the noon, but there's no Kirk Cousins, so there's no noon nightmare anymore. But, everyone's still excited that, the Vikings start coming up here. So it was good preseason. We didn't have any episodes. Everyone was just kind of busy with jobs and moving back and some not moving back. Everyone was just busy with life. So weren't able to get any episodes, but here we are to talk about the preseason roster pretty much. By the way, those were two separate words: preseason, roster, everything else that's happened in the past month. We're here to break it down today and talk about their game coming up on Sunday. So the last episode we made, like I said, was July 25th. It was when J.J. McCarthy and Dallas Turner both signed their contracts, and I think Jordan Addison got arrested. That might have been the episode before that. I don't remember. So we haven't made any episodes since the preseason or the roster, nothing. So big things that have happened. Obviously the preseason, the JJ McCarthy injury, which we should probably break that down here because we haven't talked about that in a while. We haven't talked about it at all. The JJ McCarthy injury, he tore his meniscus. Nope, it was meniscus, right?
Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
So he tore his meniscus in their first preseason game against Las Vegas. Underwent season-ending surgery, and I guess we'll talk about it here. Really liked what we saw. At least I really liked what I saw out of JJ McCarthy. I'm sure Sam here felt the same. I don't know about Matt since he's not the biggest JJ McCarthy fan, but hey, you can talk about it here. During those draft episodes when you were opposed.
Yeah, I was opposed, but at the same time, he did look good in his first, extended action in that first preseason game. And it was just extremely unfortunate, this cursed organization that we have right now. Just, we can't string any good luck together. And now my mental health rides on Sam Darnold. So I have that to look forward to for this upcoming season. But I like the flashes that J.J. McCarthy's shown. Clearly, KOC was talking about he grew from his time at Michigan, draft process to getting drafted to now. I mean, it's clear that he did grow and he has shown true potential. I really hope this does work out, even though I wasn't the biggest fan of it through the draft process. He's our quarterback. I got to trust what Kwesi and KOC believe in the vision for this team, and I firmly believe McCarthy can be the guy. He's got to go out and prove it. And in small sample size, he has done that. It's just very unfortunate that this injury had to happen.
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much hit every point. Reports everywhere were coming out of JJ McCarthy and how well he was doing, and OTAs, training camp, mini camp, all that stuff. So, and then he followed up with a great preseason game, making some great throws. I thought there was still some stuff to improve on, but he's a rookie. So, it does stunt that development a little bit. Kevin O'Connell did come out and say that he's already back in the building, though, working, sitting, being in the quarterback room, being present, even though he can't do everything. So, small step or small block in the road for JJ, and we're looking forward to what he can do in 2025 and beyond when he's eventually handed the keys of this offense.
Something we'd been hearing leading up to the draft, and then Sam O is going to be able to speak on this here in a moment, is that Michigan's a very ready system. They're very professional just with how Jim Harbaugh ran it and stuff. And, I thought obviously that's great, but watching him obviously I never watched him in training camp, but hearing what other people said about training camp and then watching him on the preseason games, I was really able to see that. And I really do believe that was true. He did seem very pro ready. Granted, preseason's only 75% action where you're not really seeing actual defenses and it's just kind of bland, but he still looked very outstanding. And I wouldn't want to throw him in week one just for the sake of him and still developing. But if they had to do it, I would have been okay with it. He looked ready to run a team.
Yeah. And even with a healthy McCarthy, I mean, I think they're kind of, I've been using the term overbake. They're kind of letting him overbake and when he in his development before they throw him in, because I mean the worst thing you can do to a rookie quarterback is throw him in when he's not ready and mess up his confidence, mess up all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, come out of Michigan, even it's not even just JJ, it's all the Michigan guys. If you look at scouting reports on any of them, they're all going to say they all look pro ready, and I think that's a testament to that program. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh's still not there, but it hasn't changed much outside of they're struggling a bit, but that's a different topic. But yeah,
this is a little bit of a side street, but you just talked about throwing like a quarterback in and losing their confidence. I will say I was very proud of the New England Patriots for not naming Drake May their week 1 starter. And I think it's Jacoby Brissett. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They got the Joe Milton cycle going there too now. So there's some, I was scrolling through Patriots Twitter briefly, and I saw people that were trying to tell me that Joe Milton was better than Drake May. So we're back on that vendetta too, or whatever you want to call it.
I mean, if you're talking about an end of game, end of half situation when you're on your own 5 and you need a Hail Mary, sure, you can throw him out there. It's probably the only quarterback they could throw a ball that far.
I know.
So, yeah. So another thing too, I think obviously it definitely stinks to have your quarterback have your rookie quarterback that's learning, have a season-ending injury like this. But to me, at the end of the day, it's not really the end of the world. At least the timing of it happening would have been nice if he would have made it through the whole preseason, because then he would have got the joint practices and a couple more games and stuff. But once you get into the regular season, teams are so focused on week to week and how do we beat this opponent and how do we take them on, where you don't really have time for your backup developing quarterback to get snaps with like your big name players, because you're just focused on every week. Mm-hmm. So I don't think this really changes his development that much. To me, it's not the end of the world that this happened, and I think it's a good opportunity for him to learn from Sam and all the other quarterbacks too. Obviously he can't play, he can't take practice reps and all that, but it's not a big deal to me that he got hurt, even though it is definitely unfortunate, and hopefully it's good for his long-term health, which I think we'll be seeing.
Yeah, and I think they prioritize his long-term health, because maybe you could have, there was 2 different surgeries. There was a whole thing about that. And one of them, it was like a 6-week return timetable, and one was like 6 months. So, I mean, maybe they could have done the lighter one where it was just like a trim of the meniscus. But prioritizing your rookie's long-term health is always going to be, the most important thing, because, I mean, throwing him back out there after 6 weeks would not be smart. And if he hurts it worse or something like that, that's just not what you want.
Mm-hmm. So that's, unless anyone else has anything, I think that kind of covers the JJ McCarthy front pretty well. We've got most things. So what's kind of next that happened other than preseason, training camp? Probably just kind of roster stuff, if we want to delve into that. Oh, Matt has disappeared.
No, he's okay. Back in a sec.
So, did he say that? Oh, yeah, he did say that. That's okay. So I think that we can talk about, I'll pull up here so I'll take this off screen. They unleashed a depth chart the other day. We're going to go through it, and we can go through kind of the roster cuts, some of that kind of stuff. So I think everyone can see that on screen now. Okay, that's good.
Yep.
This is the depth chart. They just unleashed a depth chart the other day. I have not looked at this yet, so I don't know if there's any surprises. Otherwise, we can run through 53-man cuts, practice squad, depth chart, all that kind of at the same time, I think, here.
Yeah.
So Sam Darnold, obviously starting quarterback, unsurprising.
Yep.
Don't see any way he would get benched unless he's horrible, but even still.
Yeah. Or he gets hurt, obviously.
Yeah. We've seen Nick Mullins, and I've seen enough of him, so I don't need to see Nick
And
Mullins.
Brett Rapine is new signing, but he is, probably a worse Nick Mullins. So you kind of have Sam Darnold, who they say is a better Nick Mullins. You have Nick Mullins, who's Nick Mullins, and Brett Rapine, who is a third-string quarterback version of Nick Mullins. So, yeah, a lot of people were upset when they cut Jaron Hall for him, but they wanted to bring in a guy who, if it gets down to it and you need a third quarterback, he's a guy who's got experience in this league and can start in a pinch. But
yeah, I like Jaron Hall a lot, at least from what we'd seen. But I think just from practices and stuff, he put out really good tape, but overall, I mean, he's not that great of a quarterback. So
yeah, and a lot of those guys he goes against in the preseason are second and third team guys that are looking for jobs right now. So
in reality, was he going to amount to anything? Probably not really. Maybe he could be a backup quarterback. Is he ever going to be a starter? Probably not. That would be a surprise if he ever was. So yeah, it's unfortunate that he's not a Viking anymore, but it's not really a big deal. Hopefully that helps his development too. I think that's why he went in Seattle, is because it sounds like the Vikings depth chart is just kind of clustered with like their quarterbacks, whereas in Seattle he was kind of clear cut to be the three.
yeah,
Better opportunity for him. We wish him the best. It was a good like 2-week run with him that we had. So, that was that. Matt, you got any thoughts on the Linsanity run from Jaron Hall that we witnessed this fall?
No.
All right. That's all we needed to hear. So as we move along, okay. Now I know another thing we should talk about too. So remind me if I forget later. We should talk about the Mike Zimmer comments. So
yes, we
if
have to.
So if I forget about it later and try moving on to predictions, remind me that we should talk about that.
Okay.
Okay. So then running backs, Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler, that's it. That was interesting. Sorry. If anyone was
I would
saying
expect I would expect a Myles Gaskin elevation from the practice squad. I mean, before the game, there is some stuff. I would expect him to probably be on the 53 at some point, or they sign somebody. There's some weird stuff with. I don't fully. I was trying to understand it, but there's some stuff with contracts where you can sign someone after week 1 and you don't have to like guarantee it. So, I think they might either sign Gaskin to the 53 after week 1 or go sign a running back, but they seem pretty set on Myles Gaskin as your running back 3.
So yes, you were correct when you said that. Contracts signed before week 1 are, I don't know if it's just the cap or what part of it is considered fully guaranteed, or if it's like this. I don't know exactly. I'm not a capologist here, but yes, you were right when you said that. After week 1 is when they don't become fully guaranteed. So that's why sometimes teams do that. They cut players and then they bring them back. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like another wave of free agency is going to hit, but like not really this week. Well, next week. But I remember them doing that to Everson Griffin a couple of years back. They cut him and everyone was like, what are they doing? And then it was
they brought him back.
And then they brought him back. So his contract wasn't guaranteed anymore. That was also after his prime and he had other issues going on too. But
yeah, he had that. Yeah, he was done after a couple weeks then.
So yeah, so I would expect them to bring in a running back probably after week 1, but
yeah,
we'll just have to see. But yeah, I guess I've been trying to read up on the Kene Nwangwu stuff. I'm not really sure why'd they get rid of him.
So here's my kind of take on this. I think so the new kickoff rules, obviously Kene was a very good kick returner. The new kickoff rules, from what I've seen and from what I saw in the preseason and what I've kind of read about and listened to, is that it's more of like it's almost like a run play where you're going through gaps. And I think they just said, Ty Chandler offers us a little more in the run game and we can throw him back there and he can do that. Kene, obviously he had that long touchdown in the preseason, but that was more a testament to the offensive line. They opened up a giant hole and you just had to run through it. Kene as a runner isn't great. So I think they probably believe in a guy like Gaskin more to run the football, and they don't want to take up as big of like a spot, or they didn't feel it was worth taking up a roster spot just for Kene to return kicks, and they believe in Gaskin and they can throw someone like Chandler back there and be fine. So that's kind of my take on that.
I'll be honest. I almost feel like it'd be the opposite, though. With the new kickoffs, you'd think if someone has a hole and a player like Kene has speed, you can just hit that hole and see you later.
Yeah. So maybe it's an easier skill set now where you don't need a guy that can specialize in it. I don't know. That was just kind of what
the only thing that to me is kind of a question mark is if they were thinking all of like training camp about the possibility of cutting him, I would have almost liked to have seen him in the preseason getting some kick return opportunities. And if it wasn't working out, then we would all like understand, okay, well, he just wasn't the player for that. But we never got to see it, so we don't know. But obviously they know things behind the scenes we don't.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of that there. As we move on, CJ Ham, the tank, Papa Ham, fullback, one of the few fullbacks left in the NFL that actually gets used.
Potential RB3 if no one gets elevated. Do you imagine
Pride of Duluth, Minnesota, CJ Ham.
Augustana, love it.
So then on the wide receiver front, we got Justin Jefferson, of course. Jordan Addison rehabbing from his injury that he suffered in Cleveland, but sounds like I think he'll be good to go. Week 1, it's more of just, is he going to be 100% or not quite, or 80 or whatever number you want to input there. So we'll see that. Also, any updates on his arrest really don't exist yet because his court date is until October. So that's when, like, if a suspension happens, it'll probably be during the season.
Yeah, but or they'll suspend him to start next season, something like that.
Yeah,
we'll see.
So then we've got Jalen Naylor. It appears as wide receiver 3. Good choice. I think he earned it.
Yeah,
his key was really just staying healthy, and he did a good job of staying healthy. He showed so much great play during the preseason with some with Sam Darnold, even though Sam Darnold hardly played much, and then with JJ McCarthy. Him and JJ McCarthy played really well together, and with Jaron Hall too. So I like that one. BP, the wide receiver 4, he's just kind of a guy. He returns some kicks. So
punt returner too.
Yeah, that's what I meant. But yeah, then we got Tristan Jackson. He had some nice flashes. He had the nice touchdown. I think that was him, right, in Cleveland.
Yeah, he led the Vikings in touchdowns this preseason. So
yeah, he played pretty well.
Yeah, he's a guy who really played his way onto the roster. And I mean, this is a group that overall I feel I wasn't super confident in the depth going in, but after watching the preseason, seeing how they did in camp, I'm not really concerned about it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Also, another guy I liked during the preseason, Trent Sherfield Sr. He seemed to have a really good connection with especially Jaron Hall out there.
Yeah.
Left and right, I'd notice him making catches and the ball being thrown his way. I was like, he's been around a few years in Buffalo, and I think, unless I'm wrong, wasn't he in San Francisco too? Or maybe I'm thinking of a different player. But yeah.
He's been in Buffalo, Miami. Can't remember where else.
There must be a different player I'm thinking of, maybe.
Oh, he was in. I think he was in LA too.
Yeah, I just noticed left and right. Man, Sherfield's making some nice plays. The whole time, to me, when he made the roster, I wasn't really surprised based on how well he's been
really
playing. So.
Yeah, and he's a good run blocker too. So coaches like that a lot.
Also, they're not on the depth chart, so we didn't really touch on the practice squad. We got Myles Gaskin and Xavier Scott for running backs. Myles Gaskin, he played pretty well in the preseason, I thought. He had some nice runs.
Yeah.
Some good action. No one else was probably going to pick him up. He's getting kind of older now, so he's really not that old, though, but it feels like he is. And then, the other guy they just picked up like a week ago, so no one knows anything about him. And then they kept Lucky Jackson, which I was happy about because Lucky Jackson had some nice flashes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought so. Good one. Yeah. And then they kept Thayer Thomas around. Didn't do a whole lot. Sounded like he had a good training camp, though, but didn't do too much in the preseason. As we continue, we got the tight ends. Josh Oliver, of course, starting well. TJ Hawk is on the PUP list, followed by Johnny Munt, who has been the best third tight end in the NFL, according to KOC. And then Nick Muse, the South Carolina 7th-round pick legend. Also, so tight end room, tough to tell since Josh Oliver isn't really a pass catcher, but Johnny Munt, he wasn't, but now he is. And then there's Nick Muse. He's just kind of a guy.
Robert Tonyan on the practice squad. I'll be curious to see what they do with him.
He was hurt for like half of training camp. Actually, it was probably more than that.
No, yeah, he was hurt most of.
So that was kind of he had back issues going on. Then they kept N'Keal Harry. Seems like a Matt favorite kind of a player, N'Keal Harry. Are you a N'Keal Harry fan?
Yeah.
I know you're a Jalen, what's his face, Rager fan. So I thought because you're such a Jalen Rager fan, you'd also be into Mr. Harry as well here.
I think Jalen Rager just got cut too.
That sounds right.
Who was he with? Wasn't he with the Patriots?
Patriots.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Then they kept, I don't know, is it Samis
Reyes.
the Chile player? He is part of the International Pathway Program, so he doesn't count against the practice squad.
No.
So they kept him around. Then as we look to the offensive line, wasn't very surprising to me, any of the cuts. They kept 9, I think. Yes. 9 players, it looks like, were kept. Darrison O'Neal, obviously the starting tackles, 2 of the top tackles in the league.
Yep.
Walter Rouse, who it seems like this regime likes a lot.
Yeah.
And
so
then
he was a draft pick too. They seem happy about.
And then we got Questenberry, who's listed as the backup right tackle. He's got starting experience in Buffalo. Now he's just kind of the backup tackle here.
He started a few games here last year too. So
he started when Darrisaw was hurt, didn't he?
Yeah. It's a luxury in this league to have a backup tackle that started. So that's really, Questenberry plays a vital role.
He can play both positions. So this team likes flexibility, especially on the offensive line. So when you got Questenberry, who can play both left and right tackle, they definitely value that, as we'll see with some of these other players on the interior as well. We got Blake Brandel, who's played like every position ever. He was the swing tackle at one point, and then I think he moved to guard
last year.
And then he became. No, he didn't start last year, but yeah, he's played everywhere. So he'll be the starting left guard, it looks like.
Yeah, they're giving him a shot. We'll kind of see how that goes. We've seen internal promotions not go well for this team in the past, like Drew Samia or Dakota Dozier, if we remember those 2 legends on the offensive line. But yeah, so that's something I'm interested to see too, is how Brando plays.
You know who just made a 53-man roster the other day?
Who?
Oli Udoh.
I kind of forgot he existed.
Former Viking, Olisimaka Udoh. So, yeah. Then we got Garrett Bradbury at center, of course. We'll see if he lasts much longer.
Yeah.
Seems like he might just need a fresh start somewhere else at this point. But we'll see.
I mean, he has gotten a little better, but still not a top tier center by any means. He's at average at best. And then
I think he put on some weight in the offseason. We'll see if it helps, though.
Yeah, and you're going to get right away, you're going to figure it out, too, because you're going against Dexter Lawrence on Sunday. So
yeah, so we'll just have to see. Then they've got Ed Ingram at right guard. His job is definitely not safe, as we saw in the preseason. He was out there playing with the 1s and 2s, so he could be replaced if he doesn't play well enough. Man, that was just such a tough draft class. That was the first Kwesi one, right? That was the Scene one, wasn't it? Scene, Booth, and then Ingram. Ingram stuck around, just hasn't played well.
Yeah, I think Ingram, I don't know. I'm someone who's high on Ingram. I think he's only gotten better, as obviously his rookie year was rough. Last year was a little better, but he's just kind of gotten better and better, and hopefully he can fully put it together this year. And I think playing him in the preseason game was kind of sending a message too. So yeah.
Breaking news. Damar Hamlin is starting for Buffalo.
Wow. We just talked about him before we clicked record.
We did not, though.
We've got Vocal Vike in the chat. What's up, Vocal Vike?
What's up, Vocal Vike?
Appreciate the love, man.
Appreciate it.
We talked about Lewis Scene. We didn't talk about
Damar Hamlin. We were talking about Lewis Scene before the episode started, and then we
get Lewis Scene and Damar Hamlin starting across from each other. Lethal duo.
Let's look up the Bills safety depth chart.
They have someone who's good at safety, right? I cannot.
Well, they got rid of a bunch of old people.
They've got Taylor Rapp, former Ram, Damar Hamlin. They've got Cam Lewis, Cole Bishop. They don't even have... Oh, because he's on the practice squad. I was like, wait, he's not even listed on their depth chart. Lewis Scene, because he's on the practice squad. I forgot about Teron Johnson. I haven't heard that dude's name in a minute. He's on the Bills, by the way. Well, as we keep looking around the Vikings, they've got Michael Juergens, the Wake Forest kid. I think he was a 6th-round pick. Kwesi really liked him. He's got flexibility. He can play guard and center. I think if he develops well enough, I think there's an actual chance he could take over center for Bradbury in the future. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
I
a
mean,
take if they like him enough.
He had a rough preseason. He had a pretty rough preseason. So, I mean, I wasn't even sure if he was going to make the 53, but continuing that development, and that's kind of, I feel like that's just a step in the process with the old lineman, though. You're going to get your butt kicked, but
he's the one that got bulldozed on that punt, right? Or the field goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty rough.
And then Dan Feeney, who's a veteran backup. So
Dan Feeney gets center guard experience. He was hurt a lot of training camps, so that's why Juergens got a lot of playing time too.
Yeah.
Also, best mullet in the NFL.
I don't even know if Feeney played in the preseason at all.
I don't think he did.
Yeah.
He was hurt with something. Also, he's got the best mullet in the NFL. If you guys haven't seen it,
I saw it.
Google Dan Feeney. He's got a crazy mullet. Then, as we look at the defense, they've got Jonathan Grenard and AVG are obviously the starting pass rushers. Patrick Jones and Dallas Turner, Jihad Ward, they kept them all around. Maybe it doesn't really mean anything. Thought it was a little surprising Dallas Turner's listed behind Pat Jones, but maybe that actually doesn't mean anything.
I think it says N Dallas Turner. So,
yeah.
I mean, with the outside linebackers, we're going to see a lot of them. We'll probably even see some Jihad Ward. I mean, that's just kind of what Flores is going to do. And Andrew Van Ginkel's so versatile. I think he's going to quickly become a fan favorite here. He's already one of my favorite players in the entire NFL. So he's so underrated. And he's a versatile guy. He can rush the passer. He can tackle. He can even cover a little bit. So I think he's going to become a fan favorite here pretty quick.
They also did keep around Gabriel Murphy, the UDFA out of UCLA. They paid big money to.
Yeah.
But he's hurt. He's on the IR, but he's eligible to return. But that's a weird situation because no one knows anything of what's going on. So
yeah,
no one knows if he's going to be out for a month or if he's going to be out for 3 months. No one really knows what's going on.
Similar to
knows what injury he has.
Similar to Najee Thompson.
Yeah.
Who also no one knows.
It's pretty quiet. They've been keeping both of those. They've been keeping them under wraps, so we don't really know what's happening in there. The Wilfs are hiding things from us. On the practice squad, they did keep around Andre Carter, the Army Academy.
Oh, they did?
Yes, they did.
I thought he was long gone.
He made some good plays in the preseason. Didn't play at all last year. He was the big name UDFA.
I mean,
last year
he made some plays, but it didn't sound like he had a very good training camp. And the year 2, especially for a big signing UDFA, if he's not going to show out, you're going to be gone. So we'll see if maybe he can resurrect his career a little bit, but I doubt it.
I think this year will be pretty pivotal with him. If he can't do much, show any progress, then I don't see any way he'll be back next year. Maybe another team will pick him up and try and do something, but he's still got a chance.
Yeah.
They also kept around my boy, Bo Richter, on the practice squad, which I'm very happy about. I really liked watching Bo Richter.
Yeah. Some people are mad he didn't make 53, but I mean, that edge room is, it's pretty set and it's been pretty set in stone for a while. So he wasn't going to beat out a guy like Jihad Ward.
Yeah. So I enjoyed watching him a lot, but like you were just saying, if you were to put him on, who are you going to take out?
Yeah, exactly. And so, he can get elevated for a few games, maybe try to do some stuff there, but
he might be a developmental player too, but which is okay. Maybe next year he can shine.
Yeah, but we definitely liked what we saw out of him in the preseason for sure.
Then on the defensive line, we've got Jerry Tillery, Harrison Phillips, and Jonathan Bullard listed as the starters, followed by Levi Drake Rodriguez, who had an excellent training camp and an excellent preseason. Really enjoyed watching him. Excited to see him develop. Hopefully they can make something out of him. He's got the motor. He's just got to be able to put it all together. Then they kept the other UDFA, Taki Taimani, around. Trying to remember, where did he come from, college? He's from Oregon.
Yeah.
He went to Oregon. He was a UDFA. Great name.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that really just kind of made a name for himself in training. I mean, I remember watching him in the first preseason game in the fourth quarter, and he was just blowing through guys. And as a defensive lineman, it's really tough unless you're really watching them, it's tough to kind of see the impact they make, because when you're when you're run fitting as a defensive lineman, a lot of times your job is to try to take away a gap and then force the running back to cut back so a linebacker can make a tackle or something like that. So it's tough to see like Taki Taimani and Jalen Redmond really make a big impact. But if you watch the highlights even or watch the game back a little bit, like you can definitely see the impact they were having. And like none of those dudes who were on the second or third team could stop them. So it was really, really promising for both of them because they ended up beating out a guy like Jonah Williams, who's a veteran in this league. So that was cool to see.
So yeah, Jonah Williams did stick around on the practice squad, but obviously didn't make the 53, but he was getting reps with the first team during training camp. So yeah. I thought we all probably thought he was pretty safe to make the roster, and then he didn't. So that was that. They also kept around Jalen Redmond, the UFL standout.
Yep.
Played pretty well during the preseason as well. So see if he can do something. As far as moving inside, Blake Cashman, the Eden Prairie native, obviously will be the starting inside linebacker alongside last year's UDFA standout, Ivan Pace. Then at backup, we've got Kamu Grugier-Hill. I thought he played pretty well during the preseason. He's been mostly kind of a special teams dude during his career, but he played pretty well, I thought, at linebacker during the preseason. So
special teams ace and veteran depth.
Then there was talk of them cutting ties with Brian Asamoah, the former third-round pick that played super well his rookie year and then did not play well at all last year. Did make it. This might be his last chance at really solidifying a starting, well, not even a starting spot, but just really solidifying a rotational spot even. That's non-special teams. This year could be the year where he does it. Then we got the cornerback room. Stephon Gilmore, who they just brought in a couple weeks ago. Obviously slotted to be a starter. You know, he's getting older, but still got some tread in the tires, at least it looks like. So should be able to make an impact on this team. And then Byron Murphy Jr. as well. Pretty good player. Expected more, honestly, when the team signed him, but that's all right. He hasn't been bad. He just hasn't been outstanding. He's just kind of been mediocre of a corner, but you know, that's how Vikings corners are. Then we've got Shaquille Griffin coming off injury. It sounds like he should be good for week 1, but that's been a whole thing. Got hurt. Everyone was like, when is he coming back? Thought he was coming back, and then he just never did. But sounds like he's working again, so hopefully he'll be a full participant this week. Then they brought in Fabian Morrow. I really don't know anything about him other than he's got some experience playing for other teams like Atlanta, and I think maybe he's played more too. Yeah. As far as anything like about him, I really don't know anything about him.
Yeah, he was brought in, I believe recently played for Atlanta. Like you said, he has some playing experience. They brought him in and he was running with the ones like right away because that's when we had a bunch of guys out like Shaq Griffin. So he's been playing with the ones quite a bit. I think it's notable that he's over Caleb Evans as their first backups. So that could be interesting. But I think he's he's a guy they found in free agency, and in a pinch, I think he can play. So this is still a big concern for me, this cornerback room, because even with the signing of Gilmore, I think he's probably going to regress this year. And he's kind of like this, just a 1-year plug and play guy. So still a long-term thing they need to address in the draft and free agency eventually. But right now, I mean, I don't know. I think this is going to be one of the biggest struggles for the Vikings is this cornerback room.
Yeah, we were also unsure about whether a Caleb Evans would stick around or not. Ultimately, he did after he got benched a couple times last year. Played pretty well his rookie year, but last year didn't go as well in the Flores scheme. But he did stick around. So, again, this could be another pivotal year for him in his development. They did keep Dwight McLaughlin, which made me really happy because he played very well during training camp in the preseason, coming out of LSU and then Arkansas. So excited to see what he can do as well. I'll keep moving along so that we can talk about the Zimmer comments before you have to head out, Sam.
Yeah.
So then just as we look at safeties, we got Smith, Bynum. Bynum's in his last year, I believe, coming up. So there's been talks of an extension, so we'll see if they can work that out. Harrison Smith probably in his final year as well. We've also been saying that for the past 3 years now, so we'll have to see if this is actually his last year. Josh Metellus, the do everything kind of a guy, obviously will probably be the third safety, along with Theo Jackson and Jay Ward, who got corner and special teams reps during training camp.
Yeah, and they moved him back to safety because he was terrible when they tried to put him at corner. So
I was going to say, I think he played corner all of college, and then the Vikings drafted him a couple years back as a safety.
Yeah.
And then, he's been kind of just moving around the secondary. Will Reichard, obviously, the kicker. Romo didn't last that long. Ryan Wright won the punting job over Seth Vernon. And last but not least, Andrew DePaula, the long snapper, who's been here for quite a while now.
Don't show that special teams unit any spices.
Yeah.
That has to be the whitest group in the NFL.
We've got Andrew DePaula, the white bald guy. We've got Will Reichard, who looks like he's about 4 years old. And then we got Ryan Wright, who looks like you could put him in at linebacker and no one would bat an eye. So, that's just kind of how this special teams unit here is that we've got. So I'll stop sharing screen and I'll find the article. We're going to talk about the Mike Zimmer stuff. So Mike Zimmer, after he got fired 2.5 years
3
ago.
years. Yeah. Almost, 2.5 years because he got fired in January.
So, he got fired. Then he just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth and no one heard from him. So he was cooped up in his ranch in Kentucky probably. I did hear today, though, that he was getting paid by the Vikings still because of his contract. So that might have been why he couldn't really talk about anything.
Yeah.
Because he was still getting paid by them. So, but finally, he talked to the Star Tribune and it was nuts, some of the things he said. So I want to see if I can find the article directly. I feel like, okay, here it is.
Yeah,
I found it. So it was Mark Craig, the local writer, talked with him. Surprising it wasn't like Pelissero or like a big name kind of a national guy. It was a local guy, so that's good. But that's where you get those connections. Oh, I can't go into the article because you have to pay. Well,
wait,
I'll just find one with quotes.
Hold on, I found a free one earlier. I'll see. Go into the quotes, but I'll see if I can find it.
Okay. I was going to go into the article directly, but you have to pay for Star Tribune. So
yeah, I have a free link though.
We're broke college students, so we can't do that. So he said some things about Chris Boone, or not Chris Boone. Why did I say Chris Boone? Chris Boyd. That's what I meant. I read the name Mike Boone on here, so that was where I got that from. But he said some things about Chris Boyd, and then he said some things about just being fired and addressing the team. It was weird. That ship really sunk as soon as Kirk Cousins got signed. Dude, it really just collapsed. I'm trying to find an article that actually has the quotes. Yeah, he had some Kellen Mond stuff too.
I see him every day in practice.
That was crazy when he said that a couple of years ago.
He said that in a press conference too.
Dude, you don't really got to throw him under the bus like that, do we?
I mean, that's what Zimmer. That was kind of Zimmer. He was always an old school tough guy, that kind of coach. And
yeah. All right, here is a quote. This was when he got fired. It says, he said. So he's talking about the Wilfs here, by the way, the owners of the Vikings. They asked me if I wanted to address the team. He says, and I said, hell nah, they got me fired. What a crazy comment. Which, okay, I understand that, but it's also that was your team that you just led for the past, 7 years, 8 years maybe? 7, 8 years, however long it was. And you're just going to turn on it like them? If you're getting fired, it's your fault, not your team's fault, because you're a bad coach. What? So that was a crazy comment. And then he also said something about how he hasn't watched a Vikings game since then.
Yeah, that's literally what he said.
Because he has, but for film purposes, he probably has. He probably hasn't leisurely watched one, but that's that. And then he also, Chris Boyd. I don't know what Chris Boyd said. There's no context behind it, but it's funny reading the quote.
So here's what happened. So
Go
Chris
ahead.
Boyd, I don't think it's in the article. Chris Boyd went on a podcast and he was like trolling, and he made some comment about Zimmer. And then Zimmer said, he was like, dude, you've committed more special teams penalties than anyone I've ever seen. Yeah, here's it. Chris Boyd, he says something about me. He says, I'm like, dude, you had more special teams penalties than anyone I can remember.
Oh, man.
Then Chris Boyd was like, I still respect you, coach. You didn't have to like do me dirty or something.
Yeah, he was like,
along
dude,
those
you're the
lines.
one that gave me a chance in the NFL. Like, you don't gotta
Rip me apart.
Like that,
Chris Boyd was always hilarious, though. I wish he was good. He was so fun to have around in Minnesota.
he had some good moments, but he also, to me, on special teams, sometimes he just kind of had no IQ when some of the plays he made. I would always get triggered because he would make dumb penalties, and I'm like, what are we doing here? He would always have like dumb unsportsmanlike conducts, and I'm like, grow up. This is the NFL, dude.
Because I was confused when I initially read the article, I was confused why he said that too, and then I did some research, and apparently he went on a podcast and like made some comment about Zimmer, and then Zimmer fired back at him with that.
Yeah, that was the Star Tribune article. Some nuts comments were made. If there's any follow-ups, we'll make sure to follow up. I wonder if I don't think this will affect the Cowboys at all, but now that the Cowboys players, since he's the DC there now, if players are going to read that, what would you think? Like, he was a former head coach here, and everyone just like turned on him because he made a toxic environment.
I don't.
Oh man.
I mean, I don't know, but
first Wednesday of the month.
Yeah, can you hear that?
Yeah.
Siren like 2 blocks away from my house.
Nothing more Minnesotan than that.
So, but I mean, with Zimmer, like, I mean, I'll always love Mike Zimmer, and even this, like, I'm not gonna hate him because I just think it's funny. But I mean, it became clear in 2021, like midway through the season, it's like, yeah, this guy's got to go.
He said something. I gotta find where it is. He said something about. Well, apparently I didn't talk about this either. He walked out after they drafted Kellen Mond. That was
he stormed out of the draft room.
Wild, like, bruh. You know who else I just saw in this article next to Kellen Mond that I forgot about? Chaz Surratt. Whatever happened to that dude?
He's still on a team.
Former North Carolina quarterback turned linebacker.
Yeah, he's
Chaz
playing
Surratt
on.
and Wyatt Davis and Kellen Mond were all drafted in the 3rd round that year. 3 of them were complete busts.
Yeah, he said the first round Rick Spielman was trying to trade up for Justin Fields too. So that's an interesting.
Yeah.
nugget.
Oh man, he said something about, I can't find it, the exact quote. He said something about how someone, I think Mark must have asked him like if you ever got a head coaching opportunity again, would you do it? He was just talking about how as being a head coach, like, oh, I got to talk to my quarterback and I got to develop him. And I'm like, dude, that's what an NFL head coach is. That's your job.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're a head coach. You're not a DC. You're a head coach. Your job is the whole team.
Yeah, he said that basically and what he's saying here is true, is that the NFL is really moving towards hiring younger guys that can coach quarterbacks that are like offensive minds, like Kevin O'Connell, as head coaches. So, I mean, I don't think he'll ever get another shot unless maybe the Cowboys go on and like win the Super Bowl this year.
The only team I could see him being a head coach with is the Cowboys. Nowhere else would.
I mean, there's a chance he could be the interim head coach by the end of the season.
I could see Jerry Jones giving it to him, yeah, if they got rid of Mike McCarthy. Couldn't see any of the other 31 teams making him a head coach. That's his only hope. So, yeah, that was that. Later I'm going to actually read this whole article and look at it word for word, and there's a lot of juicy information inside of there. So, otherwise, those were kind of the major quotes that have been roaming around Twitter and whatnot. So, that's that. I love how we're 45 minutes into the episode and we never really talked about the Vikings and Giants game.
Not really much
just
to
talked about other
to
things,
be honest.
but that's okay. So if you ever need to hop off, Sam, you can.
Yeah, I got to get going here. So it was good to see you guys again. But
Yes, good to see you.
I should be on for the post game. So
Okay,
we do
cool.
that. See you guys.
I think I will be too, but we'll see when it gets closer. All right, there goes Mr. Sam. So now I think we can probably go through predictions and game picks and stuff, and we can talk about
wrap it up real fast.
Yeah, we can talk about the actual Vikings game and stuff when we get to there. So here, hold on, I probably didn't share screen. I thought I did. I did not. Podcast. Bam, there it is. Here's the predictions, folks. So yeah, we had some things come off the board since we haven't filmed an episode in ages. We got some new predictions here as well. So here we go. We'll run through what's come off the board quick. I said Lewis Cine and Andrew Booth wouldn't make the Vikings 53 roster. Neither of them did. I said Hawk would not play. This was right after his injury, I think, is when I made this. So now it seems like a layup, but back then it wasn't. I said Hawk would not play this season until week 5 or after. He's on the PUP, so he can't until week 5 or after. And then we had a bunch of JJ McCarthy ones that all are coming off the board since he can't play this year because he's hurt, of course. I said he'd play in at least 8 regular season games. And then I also said CD's contract extension would eclipse $35 million per year, which is what Justin Jefferson's was. I think his was like 32 or 33 or something. So he did not quite get it. Sam Z said McCarthy would lead the team in passing. McCarthy, yep, both wrong. He also had Mekhi Blackman one, and then Mekhi Blackman got hurt. So unfortunately, will not happen. Big Lou said exactly 2 of the 4 starting quarterbacks will not be on the Vikings in 2024. I let this play out a while. Wanted to see what Jaron Hall would happen. Wait, let me think. This might be wrong. No. Who were the starters last year? Was Kirk Cousins gone? Oh, I know why I counted it. I was thinking Jaron Hall's not here anymore, but because Jaron Hall made the 53, I would consider him a member of the team. So unless you want to fight or anyone wants to fight for this, if it was my prediction, I probably would have fought to have it green. So I think that he backdoor trick played this one, but I would consider it to be a green prediction because Jaron Hall made the 53. But yeah, if you want to disagree, if anyone else wants to disagree, Big Lou kind of got lucky on this one, but it's by the wording, it is correct. So it is a correct prediction. You made one prediction here. You can read it off and explain it because it's a good one.
Big Lou obviously did basic training this summer, and in part of basic training, you're going to lose a little bit of weight. You're going to get whipped into shape. So I would have thought he would have lost 20 pounds by the time he came back. I think he only lost 15.
Yeah, he told us 15 when we asked in the group chat how much he lost. So I don't think he was ever on any episodes between when you made this prediction and when it came off. So I don't know if he'll ever see it.
I don't wonder if he even knows.
Because the one day in that group chat, I think I just asked him like out of the blue, like, hey, well, how much weight did you lose? Any idea? And he answered, and I'm like, okay, thanks. That was it. Never told him why I was asking that question. So maybe we'll tell him next time why it was there. Sam O had a few. He said JJ McCarthy would start less than half the season. Andrew Booth wouldn't make the 53. There'd be at least 9 head coach vacancies this offseason. Left it on the board for a while. It was 8. So did not happen. He also said Gabriel Murphy would be the only UDFA to make the initial 53, and he didn't. 2 others did. So that's that. As we look at the predictions over here, I still hold the lead with a crazy start to the year, followed by Big Lou, who's only had 3 predictions, so his numbers are kind of small sample size, followed by Sam O, and then it is Sam Z and Matt, 1 for 16. Brutal start. Don't know if you'd ever be able to replicate this. I don't know if anyone would ever be able to replicate this.
I think it's more impressive that I've gotten this many wrong.
You have a lot on the board. You have a lot of opportunities here, though. So
yeah,
we'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to see. I love that prediction. Lewis Cine will record an interception this season. You did not specify the team. So if he gets an interception with any team, it counts.
And he
Because it was not
recorded an
specified with the
interception
Vikings.
in the preseason.
Oh, yeah.
I know it doesn't count, but it's
I was going to
just
say
like,
that doesn't count. It
it's
doesn't
just the
count as
icing on the
stats.
cake.
So yeah, you got your hopes up. Well, not really. So if he gets a interception with any team, it counts. We'll just have to see what happens. Yeah, you've got a lot of predictions here. How do you feel about that one? Caleb Williams will break the rookie passing touchdown record.
I feel like if there was any quarterback to do it, it would be him,
He's
just
got a
given the
chance.
situation he's in.
I think it's Justin Herbert, isn't it, right now?
That had 32, yeah.
Unless someone beat him.
It's 32, and I think it is held by Herbert.
Gotcha.
The Chargers will not make the playoffs is a very, very big layup right now, even though when I made it, it was not at the time.
It was right after Harbaugh got hired, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When you made that one.
A lot of people were like hyped up for the Chargers, and then they just kind of fell to.
Yeah, no one talks about them anymore. There was all the hype behind him. Oh, we got Justin Herbert going with Jim Harbaugh now. And yeah. And then they're just kind of the Chargers now. They're just kind of there. So that's that. But we can probably unveil predictions. I'll just do all mine, I suppose. I think all mine are about the Vikings-Giants game, if I remember. Oh, wrong one. If I remember correctly. So my first prediction was that Dallas Turner will have at least one sack and or TFL against the New York Giants. His first career game in the NFL, his first regular season game. He's going to come out with one. And he's gonna have at least one sack or TFL. Should I up the number? I could up it. Is one not enough?
I feel like it's a rookie for its first game.
That was what I thought too. If it was like Danielle Hunter, for instance, it would have definitely been like 2 or 3. But that was the only reason I left it at 1 is because it's Dallas Turner. He's never played a game his first time. Well, my second prediction was this Vikings-Giants game on Sunday will be decided by 3 points or less. I don't know. It just feels like
the KOC era. I mean, every game's decided by a few points.
So, yeah, the Vikings could be a good team. Probably won't be that good of a team this year. Then we got the Giants, who are, the Giants. And this game's in New Jersey, so they got the home field. Sam Darnold, playing at his old stadium. Granted, he didn't play for the Giants, but he did play a lot at MetLife. So we'll see if the ghosts are there, if they show up Sunday. So we'll see. Third and final prediction, the Vikings will force at least 2 turnovers against the Giants. I was just thinking about Daniel Jones and trying to make a prediction about how bad Daniel Jones is since I'm a Daniel Jones hater. And then I just thought, they'll force at least 2 turnovers in this game. Yeah, there you go. So those are my 3 predictions for this game. There we go.
It's like Tango's made his own prediction. He believes Dallas Turner will have 10+ sacks this season.
What a wonderful prediction that was. I was going to say I had one here where he'd have at least 7, but 10 is quite the bar there. I'd be impressed. Good for Dallas Turner if he can do that.
Knowing his luck, he'll get that prediction right as long as I don't make that prediction.
So, over here we go to Matt.
All right. We're getting things started right away. Tomorrow, big kickoff. I think Lamar Jackson will rush for 75 yards against Kansas City. I feel like it's really the only way for the Baltimore Ravens to have a chance in this game. If Lamar can get going with his legs, his ability to create plays, it's going to have to be a little bit of backyard football right off the rip. And Kansas City last year, they did lose in their season opener to Detroit. So, there's always a little Super Bowl hangover that teams can overcome. Second prediction, Sam Darnold will go crazy in MetLife. He will throw for over 300 yards versus the Giants. Obviously, KOC's offense revolve around throwing the football. I wonder if it's going to be different without Kirk Cousins at the helm. They do have Aaron Jones, who's a nice pass catcher out of the backfield, so maybe there's some good rack opportunities for all the receivers and running backs. And frankly, I mean, I feel like it's going to be tough to run the ball given their front is Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kevon Thibodeau. It's a good front. They're going to have to move them horizontally. You just can't go up. Can't just run through the defensive tackle gaps.
They've got a good defense. They just have no offense whatsoever.
The secondary is a little questionable, which might be the way they have to attack it.
They just added Adoree Jackson, so that hopefully that helps.
They did.
Yeah, I was looking at your prediction. You had a prediction up here that they'd sign either.
I did see that. So
I was checking in on it, and J.C. Jackson is still a free agent.
I feel like you could read that one, to be honest, and if it did end up happening, we just forget about it.
Do you want to sign an end date? Or how about this? You can put an end date on the prediction. Like, if it doesn't happen by this date, it's wrong.
I'd give it the season, though.
Oh, but you just want to count it wrong now, unless something happens in the next, 3 days.
Yeah, kind of like with the Justin Fields one.
All right.
I don't see it happening, to be honest, but if it did happen, we know
we'll revisit it if something surprising happens.
All right. And the last one, we're going college football. Carson Beck, the quarterback at Georgia. If you don't watch much college football, I believe he'll be the first quarterback taken in the 2025 draft. He has all the intangibles of a NFL quarterback. I feel like there are guys that play right now that are better than him. I think Cam Ward's a better quarterback than him, just in terms of talent. But I think when you look at the NFL and how he would fit, he has the best fit in terms of any of these quarterbacks coming out for the draft. And a lot of experts also believe that he will be the first quarterback taken. So unless something drastic happens, like a Joe Burrow 60 touchdown season, which you would have had him slated as a middle round pick in when he was drafted, 2020. 2020, and then you had that incredible season that got him to the number one pick. Unless something crazy like that were to happen with some quarterback, we'd have to wait and see. But he's an efficient quarterback, so that's why I feel like he will translate well to the NFL, just being a nice game manager.
I just Googled it, and holy cow, you were right. He did throw 60 touchdowns his senior year.
Joe Burrow.
That's crazy. 60 touchdowns?
I mean, he threw 7 touchdowns in the college football playoff semifinal against Oklahoma.
Wow.
I mean, it was like every game his stats were like 300, 400 yards, 4 and 5 touchdowns a game. It was just absurd.
That is nuts. You don't even see that in the NFL, who's got, 17 games. And then we got college football, which is 13 maybe?
Which is now-ish. With the new 12-team format, the most games you could end up playing as a team is 17. I think the most you do end up playing, though, if you want to go perfect or unbeaten, is 16.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a first round if you don't win your conference championship. So, yeah,
so it's like a first round bye, pretty much.
Yeah, so when Joe Burrow had that spectacular season, I mean, it was 15 games.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I mean, you just said
crazy.
NFL teams at the time, so there's 16, 17 games.
We're going to look up what the NFL single-season passing touchdown record is.
I think it's Peyton Manning.
55 by Peyton Manning in 2013.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Is this kid here, the Jackson Dart kid, is he a senior, or is he going to be in the draft next year?
He'll be in the draft.
So does that change? Are those two picks, your Carson Beck one and your Dart one, are those contradicting or not necessarily?
Not contradicting, because Heisman just goes to the best player in college football, and it's usually a quarterback award. Because you look at Jaden Daniels, he won the Heisman, but we can all say Caleb Williams was the best quarterback that came out of the draft.
Did Caleb Williams win the Heisman a different
year? He won
year?
it the year before Jaden Daniels.
That makes sense then. So, yeah. Gotcha. Also, I have Malik Neighbors on some of my fantasy teams, so I'd be okay if he did good, but the rest of the Giants can do bad Sunday. They also have no other players anyway, so that's all they'll be throwing.
They have Devin Singletary.
Malik Neighbors. Yeah. So that's that.
We'll just quick go to Sam O. Michigan will upset Texas. Bold take. I think Michigan hosts. So that's really one of the biggest factors they have going into that game. A former walk-on is now the starter at Michigan, cancer survivor. Really cool story there. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of a miracle to pull it off. Michigan is not what they were last year, but it's
So
college football.
Is it not Cade McNamara? Whatever happened to him?
Cade McNamara transferred to Iowa.
Gotcha.
He was at Michigan.
Gotcha.
And then got beat up by McCarthy.
Gotcha. Okay. And then I've been seeing around Twitter sometimes the new Nebraska quarterback, some things about that.
Dylan Raiola? Yeah.
I've been seeing things about him.
Bro, it's just a carbon copy of Patrick Mahomes, just all his mannerisms.
He looks pretty good. Like, well, Brent, I've only seen highlights, I guess, so I haven't seen like the bad, but
it's like Colorado on Saturday night.
Plays.
So, I mean, he'll get some primetime television. Matt Rule in his second season, potentially getting Nebraska back to its old glory days. We'll see. But, yeah, Mahomes calls Raiola his little cuzzo. But, you know, I just feel like you got to create your own personality. I think it's cool that you have a favorite player, but, like, dressing up just like him to a T is a little – I don't know. It's like Tatum just –
strange.
Tatum just copying everything Kobe did. It's like, it's cool that you have an idol and all, but like you can also be your own person yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like that you can, just be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
He styles his game off of Mahomes, which is fine, but it just is like a personality. It's okay to be different.
Yeah.
Dexter Lawrence will record 3 tackle for loss against Minnesota. It's a high number, but he is also one of the best defensive tackles in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, Vikings will win by more than one score, which contradicts what you said about it being
it'll be a
3-point game. I think it'll be a touchdown game. If that's really the largest it could be.
Gotcha.
If it's more by one score, it's going to be 10.
Okay. We will just have to see, I guess. So there's our predictions. We can rip through picks pretty quick. So we will have to talk in the group chat about the official rules. Last year we had an episode, so sometimes people wouldn't put their picks in on time, so we would just void them. So we talked last year about making it where if a person doesn't have their picks in by kickoff, it's red. So we will have to clarify that in the group chat to make sure everyone knows that is a rule, and so you cannot argue it because it is officially a rule. So as can be seen, these two guys don't have their picks in yet. So we're going to make sure they have them in. And if they don't have them in by kickoff for these games, it is a red prediction. So so that is the official rule modification this year that we did not make last year. Kicking off the season tomorrow night, Ravens and Chiefs. We've got 2 going KC, Matt going Baltimore. I went KC since they lost to Detroit last year. I think that Andy Reid is going to preach to them that they can't do that same thing again. Can't go out there in the opener. Granted, I think Baltimore is a better team than Detroit was. Like Detroit, well, how do I say this? Baltimore right now is better than Detroit was at this point last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a tougher game. But I still think, Andy Reid and Mahomes and the leaders there are going to say, we can't let that same thing happen. We can't embarrass ourselves on national television to open the year, kind of like they did last year, even though they got over it and still won the Super Bowl because they're the Chiefs. So that was why I went with KC in this one. I could see it both ways. It'll be a good game, hopefully. As we continue, we got the Packers and Eagles Friday night. Me and you both going Philadelphia. Sam O going with the Packers. I could also see this game going both ways too. So we'll just have to see. Steelers and Falcons.
Kirk Cousins debut.
Going Kirk Cousins noon game Atlanta, his first one. Patriots and the Bengals. Everyone's going Cincy. Also, I have an update on that. CBS just sent me a notification that Jamar Chase has returned to practice, although he has not gotten his extension yet. So
they told him to stop whining.
Even if he doesn't play, they will still win anyway. So it really doesn't matter because the Patriots are the Patriots. Cardinals and Bills, everyone's going Buffalo and DeMar Hamlin, their starting safety. The DeMar Hamlin-Lewis Cine combo is going to go crazy. We got the Jags and the Dolphins. Sam and I both went Miami. You went Jacksonville. This is going to probably be a pretty good game.
I just feel like the way Jacksonville ended last year, they want to prove people that, last year was a fluke, not the other way around, that their playoff appearance was a fluke. They want to prove that they're a good team and they can contend in a very crowded AFC South now. But Miami in the last 2 years under Mike, is it McDonald?
McDaniel.
Mike McDonald's Seattle. But yeah, Mike McDaniel, Miami's teams have always gotten off to a hot start, so I can easily see Miami having a great offensive explosion in this game.
Yeah, Miami, they've been kind of a letdown team. I feel like over the past couple of years, we've seen potential that they could be really good.
Start strong, teeter off towards the end of the year. So it's really just about being able to maintain. Yeah. And really, at the end of the day, you got to play your best ball towards the end of the year. And that's what KC did. That's why they won a Super Bowl. Jacksonville didn't. That's why they missed the playoffs.
Jacksonville feels like just kind of in a weird spot. Like they could be good, but they're just not. Like
they got to go out and prove it.
Yeah, they've got the potential. On paper, they're a good team, but last year was just, last year. But yeah, they were good the year before, and I had faith in them. But I think I've kind of lost some of the faith, so they need to prove to me again that they're a team that can win and make the playoffs again. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. We got the Panthers and Saints. Very boring game. 2 going with New Orleans. Sam going Carolina. Adam Thielen looks like he'll be sticking around in Carolina. We'll see what happens there.
Not really much to talk about there.
Texans and Colts. I went with I could have gone either way. Oh wait, I said the wrong one. Titans and Bears. Texans Colts next. I went with Chicago just because I feel like a lot of people are taking the Titans as an upset, almost as like the Bears are the new Bears, but people have been taking the Titans, so
I think it's going to take a little bit to gel together for the Bears. It's not going to all come together week 1. So even if Chicago wins, it's not going to be a pretty game, I feel. Mm-hmm. There's still going to be that learning curve for Caleb Williams.
I think it's just because to me, I feel like the Titans don't really have like an identity at this point. They're kind of a team that's just kind of rebuilding right now. So don't know what to make of them. Now we've got the Texans and Colts in the AFC South. We all went Houston. I'm very high on Houston, as are a lot of people. CJ Stroud's my starting quarterback in a league or two, I think. So very happy and hope he performs well. We got the Vikings and the Giants. We all went Minnesota. I think we all went Minnesota last year, and then they lost to the Bucs.
New year. It's a new year.
New year. So we all went Vikings this time. We'll see what happens. Then we got the Commanders and the Bucs. Everyone's going with the Bucs. Cowboys and the Browns. This is a good game. You two went Dallas. I went Cleveland. Kind of an upset pick here. I just feel like Dallas, they just got such weird vibes going on over there. And this game's in Cleveland. Maybe the Mike Zimmer stuff isn't going to mean anything now, but they got, obviously, CD got his extension, but Dak Prescott's trying to get his extension, and the vibes are weird, and no one really knows what's going on. Feels like every year they're good on paper, and then they just don't really do anything when it comes to the playoffs. I think Cleveland's going to open them up, and they're going to open up their eyeballs. The Cowboys will with this game. So we'll see. This feels
Deshaun Watson really needs to prove that he is worth the money that he was given.
Yeah.
And stay healthy. It's really it there.
I think Cleveland is such like a ground and pound physical team that whereas Dallas isn't. So I feel like that's where Cleveland can beat them, is like the run game and the trenches, where the Cowboys are kind of more of a track meet almost. So we'll see though. We got the Russell Wilson Bowl, even though he's not even on either team anymore. I went Seattle. You're, I believe, the middle, right? Yes, you went Seattle. Sam went Denver. Denver is also just a weird team. Bo Nix is the starting quarterback. Is he ready? We're going to find out. Weird game. It's in Seattle, too. Give me the Seahawks. AFC West here, Raiders, Chargers. I went with the Chargers for no actual reason. I could see both teams winning it, but Jim Harbaugh in his debut taking home the victory here. If the Raiders won, I wouldn't be surprised either. Could see this game go both ways. Rams and Lions, excellent Sunday night game to start the year. I went Detroit. You went Detroit. Sam O went with the Rams. I also thought about going either way here, but I just think the Lions won last time. I thought, the Rams could take it this time to counter, but Dan Campbell's your coach. You've got Jared Goff. They're going to come out with the same energy they did last year in the playoffs. They're going to start the season on a high now that they're in a Super Bowl window. Lions are going to win this one. Jets and Niners, really good Monday night game to start off the year. We all went San Francisco. I need to see the Jets prove it to me that they can win. Vibes are weird over there too, and they got Aaron Rodgers, so vibes are weird by default.
Absolutely.
So there's our picks, folks. Of course, we don't have any stats yet since the season has yet to start. Those were our stats last year. Samzy won allegedly. He won, followed by me, Big Lou, Matt, and then Sam O. So we will see what happens this year. Otherwise, that does it, I think, for this episode. Unless you have any parting thoughts. You've got class coming up here.
NFL starting back up again. I mean, can't be more excited. It's a great time as a sports fan. You got the NFL, MLB wrapping up, about to head to the postseason. NBA kicks off in a month. NHL, if you like hockey.
This is really the sports season is the fall, where you got football and then, like you just said, hockey and basketball are both starting up at the same time, and baseball playoffs, the best time of baseball. I haven't really been into baseball as much this year, but maybe when the playoffs happen.
I felt more intrigued just because of being in a fantasy league. I guess I'm like more in the know of how players are doing individually. Baseball
is just such a long season. It's hard for me to stay really like in tune for 162 games.
Mm-hmm.
If they shortened their season, they would have more engagement, I feel like, with fans if it wasn't 162 games. But, they're the MLB. They're led by Rob Manfred. No one really knows what they're going to do because they're good at finding ways that you'd think would make money, but then they don't do that because they're the MLB. Just like if they put a salary cap on, they would do so much better, but the players are never going to agree to it.
Yeah. That's a topic for
we could have a whole podcast. We have a whole podcast just on salary caps and like, should the MLB make one? Is the NFL doing it right? Is the NBA doing it right? Yeah, we could have a whole hour-long episode just talking about salary caps and league structures. Spoilers, my personal opinion is the NFL does a great job. Their salary cap is done well. Their season is run well. They always have something going on. The only time they don't have things going on is like June to mid-July. It's the only month and a half of the year where there's not something happening in the NFL calendar. So they do excellent. Unlike in the MLB where the season ends and then you don't hear anything until like spring training the following year. It just kind of dies in the MLB front. Whatever. We can have a whole episode on that sometime. I feel like Sam O would actually really enjoy that. A whole episode just on what sports league structures and who does well and who doesn't. Otherwise, that does it for us. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a good day. Peace out. And as always, SKOL Vikings. We'll see you guys again on Sunday after the game.